How's it? Today is May 13th, Wednesday. I just did a ton of overhead work. So, power jerks, behind the neck push presses, um, and overhead press. Today was the first day I really pushed the power jerk in quite some time. So, going up to a heavy single, and I feel pretty good with it. Um, I don't feel awesome, but given how everything has been feeling lately, it's kind of nice to know that some parts of my movements still work okay-ish. Yeah, so I got up to, I think it was 240, and I could have done more, but you'll see why I cut it short. Another thing that was happening today was my wrist didn't feel super stable. So maybe as it gets to the heavier weights, I end up putting my wrist wraps on to hopefully fix that issue. Something Steve mentioned earlier before I started um, training today was to drive with my legs, and the only things that my arms were in charge of was pushing my body down instead of pushing up on the bar. And I mean, in all actuality, that's not really how it works, but it's a really good way to kind of put my mind into a frame of reference that is conducive to actually doing the power jerk. And I think it helped today. It's not something I've ever been told, so it's interesting to hear something like that for the first time. There were a few reps when I picked it up off of the blocks where my upper back, that issue that I've been having, it started to kind of flare up, and I wasn't too worried about it because it didn't hurt when I dipped and it didn't hurt when I pushed. So I didn't think too much of it. But come next week, if something does happen, then I know that it's been a thing. So here I have my first set with the wrist wraps on. Not bad, 235, and then here's my final set at 240. And so that step forward was the large reason why I didn't decide to go up and just keep it at a moderate 245. So these are actually um, these behind the neck push presses were with a closer grip. So I wasn't sure how heavy I should go. So he was telling me just do a couple triples, and so I ended up doing 5 triples at 185. It's not super heavy because I've been doing power jerks behind the neck, I think, to like 225 or so. And I wasn't sure again. So I just kept it at a moderate 185. Try my best to push straight, because if I kind of lean back as I push up, then my head will get in the way of the bar, and then I will push the bar into my head. It's my fourth set. Another thing I was thinking about was getting speed from the dip. So push right here, speed, quickness up. It's my final set. And then I went into that overhead press plus overhead squat. This is kind of challenging, even if my hip wasn't feeling the way it is, because I was never really good at overhead squatting with a clean grip. I mean, I'm able to do it. I've been able to do it in the past too, but it's always just been a challenge. And then I finished off with some. It's not finished off yet, but I did some Romanian deadlifts, snatch grip. The goal today was to just go as heavy as I could with decent technique. So sets of 5. I worked up to 200. I personally think that 200 was probably too heavy, and if not too heavy, then it was the exact amount of weight that I could handle for today. Getting the side angle is very, very cool on this one, because I can see the angle of my hip, my lower back, my upper back, and I can also see how my knees are tracking. It's my second to last set. I made it a point to pull out of the hole like I normally would if I were snatching normally, just so that my legs and my hips run through that range of motion. So these here, they don't look too bad, but I felt like I was getting pulled forward a little bit more than I would have liked, kind of as I reached the end range of motion on the bottom. You'll see it happen a little bit more on this 200, so this is the final set. Right there, yeah. So right there, you can see my scapula kind of just spread a little bit, and I did a pretty good job looking at the video, but I remember what it felt like, and it felt like I was not executing correctly. And I finished off with some dips for 3 sets of 15. I think this is the first time I've videoed it. Videoed a good set. Normally I video the first set, and sometimes it's just tremendously bad, but so it was okay. And that'll be it for today.